No, turn off again. Well, guys, he basically picks himself up and he comes up, well, we had the, oh, by the way, let's go back. Why do you think we called them 8-day clocks? Why do you think, what do you have to do to grandfather clocks? Probably about once every 2 to 3 weeks, at least once a month. What do you have to do to the grandfather clock? Huh? Yeah, you have to wind them. Which basically it makes the weights go back up again because it's those weights that power the clock. Okay? Well, basically with these 8-day clocks, you would have to wind it up every 8 days. Well, he goes to a cheaper brass clock that's a 1-day clock. It has less parts, not as high quality, but it's still good quality stuff. Indeed, it was incredibly popular. So much so that a lot of counterfeit clocks rose up to sell their goods. But they were pretty much pieces of junk, which made his clocks really stand out in their quality. And within 1 year, this guy who had lost $100,000 has enough money to pay off all his debts and still clear $35,000. So is he doing good? Yeah. Oh, and by the way, if you have one of those $20 8-day clocks, guess how much that would go for today at auction? Now, if you can find one for $20,000, buy it. Anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000. Now, guess how much these brass 1-day clocks that were only $10, guess how much they'd go for? Nah, because there are more of these made and, it's a 1-day clock, not an 8-day clock. You could only get about between $40,000 to $50,000 for it. Anyway, he works. Finally, in 1850, his brother told him, you need to take a vacation. He says, okay, I'm going to go on vacation. He goes to Europe, but he tells his brother, don't do anything with the business. Okay? His brother says, you got it. He leaves, and almost as soon as he walks out the door, who should come in but P.T. Barnum. How many of y'all seen, what is it, The Great Showman?
The Great Showman.
Guys, that does a really good job of showing you a guy who, in reality, was a con man. Okay, P.T. Barnum said there's a sucker born every minute. Okay, P.T. Barnum he ran a freak show. He'd do things like take half of a stuffed fish with the tail section, take half of the stuffed monkey, sew them together, and say, look, it's a merman of Borneo. Okay, he got together with a guy named Bailey, and what did they form? The Barnum and Bailey Circus, which gave its last show either last year or 2 years ago. So if y'all got to see it, that's something your kids and your grandkids will never get to see. Anyway, what P.T. Barnum said, look, can you guys buy my clock company? I just don't know how to run one. I've got all these parts here of the books, and it looked pretty good, and it was at a great price. So Jerome's brother bought it. What he didn't realize was that P.T. Barnum had so encumbered that company with debt. Like, let's say it's worth $5,000. I go to your bank. Hey, I got this company worth $5,000. Can you give me $2,500? Sure, he said. So now my company that was worth $5,000 now worth $7,500. I go to his bank. I get an even larger loan. Larger loan. I got lots of money. I sell the company. I have just sold all that debt to you. And I've got all the money. Well, guys, when Chauncey Jerome gets back, he finds out what his brother has done. And guys, he's so encumbered by debt, he loses everything by 1855. He even publishes a cynical book about it. Ready? All right, new workplaces and new workers. Guys, the early factories had to build their own company towns. Basically, they could hire unskilled laborers and immigrants. And at these towns, the residents or their employees pretty much had to rely on the company for stores, for schools, for housing. The company would charge you rent. You'd buy your groceries from there. They were squeezing every single penny that they gave you back out of you. Hey. But if you're an unskilled laborer or an immigrant, you'll take it. That's why you guys are taking college classes, so you can be skilled workers that will refute manipulation. And basically, all members of the family would be employed. You know, the men would usually become like millwrights or the mechanics. The women, they'd operate the machines and work on the front lines. The kids, they do light factory work. And they'd work at the vegetable gardens at home. Red? Now, there was one factory, it was Waltham and Lowell. They went out into backcountry Massachusetts that was so economically devastated that the men didn't hang around. The men had to go where there were jobs. Well, this meant that you had a lot of families trying to squeak out a living on their farm with their daughters. So these factories opened, they got to hire the women. Now, what's the problem with hiring the women? Well, guys, it was a moral difficulty. Back then, if I said, hey, Mom, Pa, I want you to meet Becca. She's a factory worker. That would be just as shocking as if I said, Mom, Dad, I want you to meet Becca. She's a topless dancer. All right? Nice girls didn't work in factories. So what did the factories have to do? The factories had to say, look, we're going to keep the women in dormitories with very strict rules so they won't be corrupted by men. We're going to pay them cash wages. Now, if you're a parent, so they're going to pay them cash wages. Guys, that was the understanding that their daughters would take most of that cash, send it back to mom and dad, help support the family. Just like in the maquiladoras in Mexico that hire predominantly women, they pay them cash wages so they can send the money back to their parents in the interior. We're going to offer cultural events, like we're going to have piano recitals or poetry readings, and we're even going to go so far as to give the girls an education so they will leave better than when they came in. Now, guys, that's a lot of expense that company had to do. In New York, guys, it's totally different. This is like machine production. You'd have one neighbor working on the soles of a shoe, the next neighbor working on the shoe itself, so on. The manager is no longer a master craftsman that has to take a paternal care over his workers. Indeed, he may not even know anything about the shoe business. All he knows is what he has to do, what the quota the company is expecting to meet. Basically, the worker's needs take a back seat to the investor's needs. And for everybody who says, Professor Galloway, that is so mean. Well, if you invest in a stock of a company called Sunshine, Ray of Sunshine Company, that pays their workers high, has free daycare, all this stuff, and the value of that stock starts to plummet, what are you going to do? Oh my God, you were so mean. That company was being so nice. Hey, I'm losing money. When I bought it, it was at 100. Now it's at 68. Basically, you had people paid low wages and a large number of people living in total and abject poverty. Oh, man. So what was, everybody got it? Now, guys, a lot of this has to do with the fact that you have a class of brand new immigrants coming into America from 1820 to 1860. Most of these peeps are desperately poor and unskilled. The only exception would be with the German. Some of them were sons of merchants. But the rest of the guys coming over here from Germany were failed revolutionaries because there wasn't a German state as we know it. Instead, there were a bunch of little kingdoms.